Yes, yes, yes. Yes, we are back in the Paddock F1, Greenie and the Cheese. We are in Holland, known for its bulb fields, windmills, bicycles, cheese markets, wooden shoes. It's home to Van Gogh, Rembrandt. How about Rutger Hauser, who played Ray Batty in Blade Runner, and somebody you might know, Michael, Carice Van Houten. She played the Red Witch in Game of Thrones, if you didn't know that, sir. But enough with that kind of nonsense. This is an F1 show. And for the 32nd time, we race at Zanvoort on the banks of the Red Sea. It's the Dutch Grand Prix. Zanvoort, 2.646 miles, 14 corners. You give it the full beans for 63% of your lap. Oh, and the Orange Army came out on their bicycles, and they were not disappointed. Max, out in front from the off, didn't look back, was another just pretty much dominant win from Max. Russell takes second. Leclerc third, hanging on. Lewis pissed off because his strategy fell apart. We're caffeinated. We're medicated. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Wonderful to be coming to you directly after the race for once. Greeting the Cheese in the Paddock F1. But we have a somber moment before we get to the show. Because in lieu of some poetry, we're going to have a funeral for Haas in their 2022 season. So we're all gathered. Can we take a seat? Can we take a seat? Thank you. Dear race stewards, please keep our drivers safe and watch over them. Make sure that they don't leave anything on track, or when their car is pitting, please make sure to watch their backs. We pray to the virtual safety car, and we say, Amen. And to Mick and K-Mag, we had so much hope. I'd wish to say our time together was wonderful, but to my unfortunate dismay, I cannot. Kevin, you came in late to replace one of the most awful drivers in the history of the sport. Exciting at first, but soon, you were not much better. Mick, what can I say? You have a very fortunate last name, sir. And as we lower the Haas 2022 F1 season into the ground, lest we not forget Gunther. Gunther and all the laughs. So maybe go in peace and hope for a better 2023.
I'm honored. I'm here supporting Team Haas.
Yeah, we know.
You know, there's a storm brewing.
There's no storm. There's no storm, Connor.
You could have held the funeral you could have held the funeral for Haas in Bahrain, dude.
No, they put points on the board. No, they can't even put points on the board anymore. And if it wasn't for virtual safety cars, they wouldn't even have a 13th for Mick. Mick, he was crying for that 8th place finish in quali. He was crying. He was in tears. Haas didn't have a spectacular weekend. K-Mag was just continues to be awful after an amazing start. I don't know what happened. It doesn't seem to be the car as much because in the straightaways, the car seemed to be very competitive, just as competitive as the Ferrari in the straightaways. But it seems that the rest of their game and in the turns especially, and it was totally exposed in Zanvoort, totally exposed Tarzan turn 1 and turn 3, which will really expose you to vehicles that can't turn. But as a funeral, they're buried. Let's move on and let's talk to Toss. Minimal and uncompetitive for the rest of the 2022 season.
Well, it would be nice if they brought some upgrades here and then. That'd be kind of nice.
I was really just avoiding and pushing off for you. For you, the inevitable, because we should be having a funeral for another team. But we will let that one go.
That was last week. That was last week when I blew up and went on my rant. That was last week. Championship contenders, my ass. That was the funeral last week.
Yeah, so it seems to be a Max Autumn approaching as he's 109 points in the lead as of
I don't
right
know, like
now.
a billion at this point, a million points.
I believe. Let's go to the videotape here. 310 to 201. Leclerc and Perez are tied at 201. Second place. Verstappen is at 109 points ahead of them, and you're talking George Russell is fourth with 188. So he's only 13 points behind second. Sainz 175. He's only 26 points behind second place. And Lewis Hamilton a little further back. Looks like Lewis is going to be pretty solidly in that six. I don't know if second place is competitive or top three are really competitive for Lewis at the moment, or a possibility at the moment. But he had a heck of a day. That's for sure. That's going to be the headline, even though it should be Max Verstappen going to the Deutschland and winning once again.
Dominant
in the Dutch Grand Prix. Zanvoort once again, back-to-backs. Back-to-back.
Dominant again.
And I don't know if he would have lapped the field, but he looked pretty mighty out there. And it wasn't for those virtual safety cars bringing everyone in. I know the big talk at the moment, before we get to Max and his win and Lewis, and the big chatter is definitely Yuki and his pit stop, and then should have stayed in the pits, but then came out and then pulled off to the side, causing that virtual safety car, and everything tightened up a little bit from there. But a lot to talk about, including Ferrari, including a podium once again for Ferrari. They have missed out on podium 5 or 6 times this season, almost did today, but were able to get on the podium. So a lot to talk about. Cheese, what's on your mind after another Dutch Grand Prix and a back-to-back? Zanvoort back from the dead.
Oh, Max dominant. Another Ferrari screw up. Just embarrassing screw up. And then Merck's strategy gets the capoodles with the safety cars. Probably should have brought Lewis in there since everybody else came in, but according to Toto, that would have been screwed if they brought them both in. I think they probably could have did the double stack, though. But just for another Ferrari mess up, that pit stop was, for Sainz, was absolutely embarrassing. Embarrassing.
That was really bad.
I mean, you're sitting there, and the tire isn't even out yet. And then the guy comes running out. And everybody else is like, what the hell's going on? Where you been? Were you dropping a deuce or something? I mean, like, would you have to go pee? You had to go wee-wee?
It's your only job. It's your only thing you got to do is put that rear tire on.
Well, it wasn't even out there with the tire. What was he doing? What was he doing? Had to hit the latrine.
The wheel gun was all over the place. It was a disaster, an absolute disaster. It was another disastrous day in the pits all across the board. I mentioned Yuki earlier, the Ferrari disaster, and just the safety that's going on right now. And I did throw that prayer in there earlier to the stewards as a reminder that we shouldn't be praying when we're in the pits, because I saw a lot of situations that were not safe today. Not safe in the pits, and people are not paying attention. If you're having a 12-second pit stop and nothing particularly went wrong mechanically, you're not paying attention. You are not paying attention, and that is not good in those situations. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I want to get my 2 cents, my safety sense in there, because it's beyond important. It's beyond important to get out there and be safe.
The safety cop was coming out this week.
And this is the steward's fault. You got to tighten it up. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're not the Cowboys of the 60s anymore here. We got to tighten it up so no one gets killed. All right, we're not going to look at just the driver safety, because we spend so much time with the driver safety. And that.
Well, you want to go into that? How about the flare on the track yesterday? How about the flare on the track yesterday on quality?
Forget about the flare, which is ridiculous. Which you're not even allowed to have those flares in there. Which I'm going to get to the flares later. Which forget about it. absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And they take it as a joke. How would you like to go pay $1,000 for a seat and the jackass in front of you throws a flare up and you get smoke in your face? What kind of day is that? What kind of day is that? Seriously, they're outlawed for a reason. They're not supposed to be there for a reason. Ridiculous. The whole thing is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. And it's been an embarrassment. And as much as I love to root for Max Verstappen, I cannot root for his fans. Everything's going on this season. Everything that's gone on this season with these Max Verstappen fans, it's absolutely ridiculous. And now they're affecting the race. Now, when you have a driver out there in qualifying who just put on fresh tires, and those fresh tires get completely ruined, and that lap gets invalidated by a jackass who's throwing stuff onto the track, are you kidding me? How did he get it on there anyway? I mean, I have a heck of an arm to get it on there. Now, what? So they're going to have to move the grandstands back further? They're going to have to make the fences higher? Like, what do we have to do now? And the millions of dollars need to be spent every single time someone does something stupid like this. How about have security? All right. How about have security at these venues? It's not. Where are you hiding all these flares? All these people are sneaking in with flares.
Down your pants? Down your pants?
So search them. Been to Yankee games. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to put your hand on a man's crotch to make sure he ain't hiding nothing. They're like 8 inches long. The whole thing's ridiculous. The whole thing was ridiculous. And when it starts affecting those on the track, we've seen it before where drivers are driving through smoke. They're driving at 200 miles an hour, 300 kilometers an hour, and you're going to start throwing smoke screens in their face and be like, oh, that looks like fun at first. And then they start tamping down on it. And even the commentators, they're so wishy-washy about it. Oh, they should have taken those away in a very unstern voice, like a very condescending voice. I don't know how security didn't catch those. Well, security has to do a better job. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. We're talking about safety. We're talking about safety on these tracks. We're talking about drivers having to invalidate their own laps because they have to stop because there's a flare on the track. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. At least the Pigeons can maneuver around the cars. See those Pigeons? At least the Pigeons make their way around.
The bravest Pigeons I've ever seen in my life. Cars were going by. They didn't even move. Just eating away.
No, they didn't care at all.
Those pigeons got some cojones. Some cojones. Well, back to business now. Then we'll go with the Merc strategy. Getting blown up by the late safety car. Lewis is pissed as hell, which I think he has a right to be. He was basically left out there on the old tires when everybody else had fresh tires and was going to eat them up. It was a gamble. Didn't pay off. The man's pissed because he wants to get that win, but was denied. Not like to be honest, even if they had equal tires, Max was going to eat him up anyway. Let's be real. Let's just be real. Max was going to eat him up anyway because he was just that much quicker than everybody else. Yeah,
sure.
We'll get into some other business. We'll get into other business in the next segment, but with some other drivers but yeah, I think that'll wrap it up here. For me, anyway.
Right on.
For this segment.
Well, we got a lot more business to attend to. That is for sure.
Because you are so steamed, I am going to pass the slap yourself to you this week.
Oh.
Because I could see the fury in your eyes. So
I had some notes. I was making some slap yourself notes as I was watching the race. I was making some slap, and I was like,
I'm going to pass it to you. this week.
All right. So let me get some work in here. I got another like 30 seconds to take a break here. So let's take a break. Let's reset. Let's begin our Quizmaster cockpit helmet on. Again, of course, we can reach us on Twitter in the Paddock USA at in the Paddock USA at gmail.com. You can email us, of course. And of course, check us out, Greeny and the Cheese on YouTube for all the fantastic season of Formula One 2022 video game. Cheese continues. I think we'll get a new video soon. We haven't had a new video in about a week or so, but I'm hearing there's rumbles of some new videos coming out soon. And Greeny and the Cheese in the Paddock F1. Back after this. Yes, y'all. We are back. Greeny and the Cheese in the Paddock F1. Of course. The Dutch Grand Prix. I am sick of the color orange, by the way. Yes, in the first segment, I really want to root for Max, but it's getting a little out of control out there with these fans. It's really been a disturbing season and not very positive one here for the Max fans. By the way, the Zanvoort circuit, the Dutch Grand Prix, sold out the day after last year's race when they went on sale. They went on sale the day after the race last year, and they sold out that day. So we'll see what happens. 105,000 tickets sold for the event. 305,000 total tickets sold over the 3-day weekend. That's a new record for the Dutch Grand Prix. That's an incredible amount of people. You almost got 500,000 people, or over a quarter million people out for these weekends. So you had over 500,000 fans over the last 8 days, over the last 2 weekends. I apologize. Over the last 2 weekends, coming out and checking out Formula One between this week and last. So pretty incredible stuff.
On the rise, sir.
It is on the rise. What also is on the rise is, oh yeah, it's time. Strap yourself in. Hopefully a little better than Yuki got strapped in today. Right. Around the Quizmaster's cockpit. Sir.
Yes, sir. As I ask every week, are you ready?
I don't know much about, I know about like Zanvoort from like the 60s. And then obviously just like last year. So I don't know. I don't even know what to expect here, to be honest. But there's a history. There's a history of races here. And I am ready.
All right. Question 1, sir. How many circuits have held the Dutch Grand Prix?
How many different circuits?
Correct.
I thought it was just this circuit. I mean, this circuit's been reconstructed. This used to be the longer circuit. Did they race at a different track? I'm going to go with 1.
That is correct, sir.
Wow. You had me second guessing. I don't think they ever raced any other track than this. But then I was like, maybe in like 73 or something, like they raced at a different track. And then I panicked. I started to sweat a little bit.
It was a trick question, sir. You're trying to stir
There's
you
no
up
such thing as a trick question. It's a question. It's a legitimate question. How many tracks? And the answer is 1. Zanvoort.
Question 2, sir. In 1985, this driver won their final F1 race at Zanvoort. Who was that driver?
The driver drove a Ferrari and drove it much better than your team did today, and that, sir, is Niki Lauda.
That is correct, sir.
The
Question.
last driver to win at Zandvoort before Max Verstappen did last year.
That's correct, sir. Question 3. Can you go back-to-back weeks with the hot lap? Who has the most wins at Zanvoort with 4? He's got
I know this
he's
one.
got a he's got a
I know
big
this one.
crap-eating grin on his face.
I know this one. I know this one. It came up 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row. Jim Clark comes up 2 weeks in a row. How about that? How about that?
That is
Jim
correct.
Clark in the Lotus back in the day, giving Lotus a name for themselves back in the 60s. With four in the decade of the 60s. He dominated that, and so did Lotus in the 1960s, dominated Zandvoort when that was a much longer and far more dangerous track with the tunnel. With the tunnel
Yes.
back in the day. I diced your questions to pieces this week. There's not. I know a decent amount about Zanvoort. I actually like this track. Last year, I actually didn't know much about it at all. And last year, when it came back on the circuit, well, 2018, when it was announced coming back for 2020, and then obviously was canceled because of COVID, and they moved it to 21 last year. So I've been like looking at the history, and I know like Piers Courage died here in 1970, and that horrible wreck in 1970 coming out of the tunnel. And so I knew about that. I always read about that in various books and stuff. But obviously I never gave attention to the track until a couple of years ago. And then I got really interested in the track. A lot of stuff has happened there through the years, a lot of crazy stuff. And Zanvoort actually is the impetus in Jackie Stewart in 69 or 70, really 70 after Piers Courage, that horrific crash. Jackie Stewart that year was the one who pushed hard after that for safety rules, which came into effect. So that Zanvoort ended up being a really pinnacle track because of safety concerns. And you know me, and I'm Captain Safety. So for me, that was very interesting.
Captain
that was
Safety.
very interesting, Zanvoort. They really screwed the pooch
Well,
there.
that means you are a winner, sir.
Wow.
2 weeks in a row, sir.
Wow.
Go for the trifecta next time.
Well, I get the winner and the slap this week. All right. Wow, a lot of responsibility here. This is almost like a promotion to the show. I'm almost I'm not 1B, but I think I'm getting closer. My number 2 status is definitely creeping up here. So winners. Do I get to go first with the winners as well?
I will let you go first too, because you're so excited.
All right. I am excited. This is true. Let's go. Let's go with Alpine this week. A little disappointing after last week, but they came through this week. Alonso looking great this week. All weekend long again. And he is just so ageless, just absolutely ageless. And just constantly impressive. And Ocon as well. Ocon had a good day as well. George Russell, of course, starting third row, moving up 4 spots to finish second, and he really him taking Hamilton, that was pretty exciting at the end there. Hamilton was not so happy about that move, but George Russell definitely was. And so I'm gonna do the right thing and take my 2, so I can give you plenty of board here for your winners. Those are my winners this week. Go ahead, sir. Let's hear yours.
I'm going to give Lance Stroll the winner with a 10th place finish. The Aston Martin actually looked pretty good this weekend, to be that honest. Showed actually some pace. Let's see. We'll go Lando Norris. We'll give him a winner with a 7th, and that just inferior McLaren. And I think that'll be it for me too. Yeah, those will be my winners. So that'll move us into losers, sir. And I'll go ahead and start this off. And
Go ahead, sir.
Lewis Hamilton gets the loser this week. Sometimes you have luck, and sometimes you don't. And Lewis just didn't have the luck. Safety cars ruined that strategy when they probably would have had a really good finish. But it happens. So be it. Move on. We're going to go Danny Ricciardo. Just another disappointing performance for Danny. Kind of showing the reason why McLaren is giving him the boot after the season. And we'll go Valtteri Bottas. I mean, just more and more bad luck for that poor man. Just more bad luck.
Yeah, hasn't missed hasn't knocked out of Q1 since 2015 until last week. And then back-to-back weeks knocking out of Q1 for the first time in a very, very long time for Valtteri Bottas. He always performs well on Saturdays, and you can tell he's just either frustrated here. Alfa Romeo, just like the Haas, has just turned to absolute trash second half of this season. Carlos Sainz getting that 5-second penalty and ended up going from 5th to 8th. Oh, that was brutal. It was brutal enough finishing 5th, and then you get dropped to 8th. That was a tough one to absorb this weekend. And, of course, I will spit on the grave of Haas because just like Alfa Romeo and those who are Alfa Romeo fans out there, it's just the second half collapse. Just what are you doing? What are you doing? Bring some upgrades. Do something here because both these teams, I'm going to put Alfa and Alfa Romeo and Haas in that same group of teams that were scoring points and competitive, and now are just so far off pace. It's like just you're running on ice skates, and it's just something to behold here where both these teams have just completely crashed, where Williams looks better and better each week, or at least, Alex Albon does, and at least he's somewhat competitive in another miserable vehicle. But Haas and Alfa Romeo, come on, guys. The whole organization has to pick it up. Aston Martin's finally looking good again, and those teams are just dreadful, and those are my losers, which brings me, of course,
I need to slap my goddamn tail for that.
This is probably an easy one, although there are plenty of teams you can give it to this week. It was kind of between AlphaTauri and the Yuki situation of leaving the pits and then causing that virtual safety car, which kind of screwed everything up. But I'm going to go back to what you were saying earlier, and I'm going to give it to the guy who was in the can or on a phone call or whatever and missed that tire, Carlos Sainz, and really, really blew it for him. Carlos just had a miserable day with his own 5-second penalty and the 12-second pit stop. I don't know where that guy was, but he really ruined Ferrari's day because you put Leclerc in second, and then you could have had 2 cars on podium, and instead of finishing potentially 3rd for Carlos Sainz, he's finishing 8th. He's finishing 8th from potentially 3rd after that. That really just threw off his game and just caused a series of kerfuffles from that kerfuffle. So go ahead. You want to be asleep at the wheel there. Not in Formula One, not in the pit lanes. Get on your game. And he left the air gun out on the track too and had almost another driver drive over the air gun. Go ahead and slap yourself in the face. I don't know your name, but I will find out your name. I'll find out your name. Who does that right rear tire? I'm going to find you. You're on call. If you know who does in charge of the right rear tire
it's the left
for the Ferrari.
Rear.
I'm sorry, the left rear tire. I apologize. Email me, hit me up on Twitter. We need to find his name. We might have to rename the Slap Yourself segment to this guy. And that is my slap yourself for the week. Final thoughts, sir, before we go to the final segment of the night.
No. I got nothing else.
All right. Well, we got Greenie Bucks, and we got 10 questions coming your way. No joke. 10 in 3 minutes. Cheese can do it. I know he can. Greenie and the Cheese in the Paddock F1. Back after this.
Yes, we're back in the Paddock F1. Greeny and the cheese. You know what that sound means. We're
A
about to take that
steel
fantasy.
drum. You know what the sound of the steel drum means.
We're going to that fantasy island of Greentopia, where the beer flows like wine and the wine flows like beer, and the cannabis grows as far as the eye can see. And we head up that top of that hill to that casino in the sky, tickets in hand. Are we cashing in? Or are we checking out?
It just gets better every time. It really does. It really does. That
You
intro
love
just
it.
gets better.
You love that intro.
Just gets better with age. Just gets better with age.
It's a great fantasy place, my friend.
It is a great introduction. This week, not so great by us though. We both lost 2 out of 3, which means we both took a little bit of dive here. We both had Max winning, which is just like a joke now. The odds for Max wins aren't so hot. So, you're not even making that much cash on him. But you got to go with Max wins because he wins every race. This is like Lewis all over again here. So we both took Max for the win, and then after that, I got a little dicey. Actually, we both took Sebastian Vettel for the biggest gainer. He did not become the biggest gainer. He got passed by Schumacher on like the closing lap and only gained 5 places. And it was the older man, Fernando Alonso, picking up 6 spots and being the biggest gainer on the day. And Fernando, just another great weekend for Fernando, as we mentioned earlier. Kind of screwed both of us over. And then the trifectas, you had a very hopeful Max Leclerc Hamilton, which is a pretty good bet. That did not come to fruition. And I had Leclerc, Hamilton, and Norris. I went like Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris. I'm like, let's go with something crazy here. Big odds, big payday, absolutely nothing. I bet 100 across the board. You bet 50 across the board. So the grand totals now are, and I am now officially below the bet line. So I'm now at 4,900, starting with 5,000. So I am down, and you, sir, are at 5,750. So you got a nice little ROI going for yourself on the season, about a 15% return on investment for the Bucks of Greentopia. And that's where we are as we head into 8 races remaining. Anyone's game, not like last year where I was falling apart and you were you doubled last season.
I did.
And I ended up with absolutely nothing. So it was like an all-in game of heads-up poker, and I ended up with nothing. And you ended up with a stack. This year, a little bit different. Let's see if we can get crazy going down the stretch here. 8 races to go. Which leaves us, sir, for the end of our program, which is always, I got 10 questions for you. You got 3 minutes to answer them. Are you ready?
I'm always ready, sir.
Oh, he says he's always ready. So without further ado, let's begin. Ferrari, a disaster in the pits again with a wheel gun left behind and people everywhere. What's your first move if you were the fantasy Ferrari crew chief?
You're all fired. Period. Next.
Merck's strategy, a disaster as well. Lewis Hamilton saying, I can't believe how much you guys effed me. Agree or disagree?
I mean, in the heat of the moment, drivers say things out in the cockpit, but, in a way, yeah, they did, but happens when your strategy gets blown up by the safety cars. Next.
Danny Ricciardo continues to struggle in the McLaren in 2022. Is there a place for him in Formula One in 23?
Rumors that I've heard say he might be going to Haas, so yeah. How about them apples? Next.
Unsafe release in the pits is becoming an issue race after race, as we saw today. If you were boss, what would you be doing about this pit disasters we're having?
I mean, there's penalties and they give fines, so I mean, there's not much else you can really do from that point. So what they're doing is what it is. People just gotta, I don't know, maybe just increase the time penalty from 5 to 10 or 10 seconds or something like that. Next.
The broadcast this week added a new time and distance graphic on screen. You liking it?
Oh, I digged it very much, though. Digged it very much. Next.
K-Mag continues to struggle as Schumacher continues to slightly improve. Are you surprised by K-Mag's great start and his disastrous final second half of the season here?
Not really. Haas hasn't brought any upgrades. Everybody else has brought upgrades, so sounds about right. Next.
Smoke flares. Are you over them being at stadiums? Period. After this week's disaster.
I've been over them for quite a long time. I don't know if you've ever even smelt one of those things. They smell like ass. So they're gross, disgusting, and it's just flat out stupid. Next. You're not calling in a chopper to get evac'd here. So let's move on. Next.
With Max on the verge of a championship, who's going to finish number 2 this year?
I don't know right now. It doesn't look like it's going to be a Ferrari driver the way those pit stops and their complete disaster and strategy keeps going. Next.
F1 2022 manager video game is out. In an F1 game where you don't drive. You sold?
I got it. I dig it. It's pretty darn fun.
You don't drive a car. It's a Formula 1 game.
Car, but you do a lot of the it's like franchise mode, but you just don't play the game. So you got everything else going, all the background stuff. Calling upgrades, setting the setups. It's pretty fun. I started playing it, take over Ferrari and not make stupid strategy calls and actually win some races.
Well, that's all we got for you this week. Yeah, I was saying to you earlier about the smoke flares, going back to the smoke flares. It's like, can you imagine paying all this money? I think I had mentioned it before, and just get a smoke flare in your face.
Oh, I'd be pissed as hell, dude. I would
in
be
your
furious.
face.
I'd want to go punch the dude in the face.
Don't watch the people holding the smoke flares on TV. Watch the people behind them. Now, again, if you're going to dress in orange and sit in that section, you have, the possibility. But getting one of those in the face, unbelievable. We have a short turnaround once again, sir. Where? What legendary track are we heading to next?
We're going to the Temple of Speed, baby. Monza. Put that right foot down and pretty much don't take it off.
Right on. Right on. Yeah, it's a full beans kind of race. We're going back to Italy. Italy 2. Second time. Going back to Italy.
Second time.
Legendary Monza. Yeah, I love the again, I'm not trying to harp on safety here as we close out the show here, but 2 races in a row on 2 of the most legendary, dangerous tracks in the history of racing. Always an interesting choice to put on the track in 8 days apart from each other. But I am not the
well, we got that compressed schedule due to the World Cup, so
just Zanvoort and Monza. Just for those who historically understand Formula One, those are 2 of the most dangerous tracks we've ever had. So just interesting, especially on a short turnaround, 3 races in 3 weeks and everything that happened this week. But we will see you a very short turnaround once again, 7 days away. We'll see you here this time here next week. And say what you got to say, homeboy.
We'll see you in a week's time. Until then, stay medicated, my friends.
We'll see you guys again in the Paddock F1, in the Paddock USA at gmail.com, in the Paddock USA on Twitter, Greenie and the Cheese on YouTube. Hit us up, look us up. We'll be back in 7 days. We'll see you then. Peace.